Hello, welcome back to another Cardiff Fantasy Hammer video around the Rally the Allies tournament. I'm Owen and I'm joined by Ben again and Bryn this time to do a bit of a recap and go over how the event went. And we should probably start by congratulating Ben. It was really fun. At least I certainly had a great time.
It looks fantastic. Yeah,
Really
great.
successful event, Ben.
Cheers. Like to thank everyone that attended. It's my first one I've run. I've already got the next one in the calendar, which we'll talk about a bit later.
Yeah, so I think I'm the only one who played out of the three of us. Obviously Ben was there, but Bryn couldn't attend on the day. So
Yeah, about that.
it was good. I really enjoyed all three missions. I think that particularly the fighting over the generals was a really cool idea in the third game. The defender attacker was good. Maybe I'll start by just talking through the three games. So my list, if you remember, was leaning into the bombard changes, knowing that it was going to be reduced by my ballistic skill if I could see the enemy. So I played with 3 mortars and 2 Hellstorm rocket batteries. It worked. I won the first game against High Elves, but it was a very close game. Came down to the final combat. So most of the game was me pelting Steve with explosives from mortars, but eventually once his dragon and some of his combat units connected with my gun line, it went quite poorly for me. And in the final turn of the game, I won a combat via the Griffin banner's combat res, and the overrun ended up spilling into and killing like his dragon and something else, which were fleeing from a different combat. So it was a very close game, but it ended up going, I think, 14-6 to me or 15-5 to me. It was a really good game. Very close.
So, Owen, you talked about that you've gone into this bombard thing. Is the bombard change that Ben did, was that like how it was back in 8th, where if you scattered but you saw, you got the minus off your ballistic skill? Is that right?
No. Well, so the buff was a buff almost in the direction of like 40k to a degree of how it used to be back in the day. The idea being that templates in Old World are substantially worse than they were even in 8th, where you've scattered your full ballistic skill because of the risks being hit. Between the combination of risks being hit and larger base sizes, templates hit significantly fewer models. Often none, basically. Whatever you hit, which is less than it used to be because they were on 20 mil squares, is now only 50% because of risks being hit as well for a lot of them. They're substantially hampered by it. So the idea was, let's just make them hit a bit more often, I think. And it was a good change. I think that the feedback I got from my opponents was mostly positive. I think that I had lent into it a lot, which meant that it affected my opponents much more than it probably did in other games because I was firing, 12 templates a turn or something instead of
Jesus, that's a
2.
lot.
So it was definitely like I limit tested it. I think it did make a big difference. It made them much better. It's made me realize that I'm actually willing to run the mortar in normal games. I think that it's not good, but it's fun. And the Hellstorm changes were good. I don't think they were ever that impactful in the game, but it meant it was a usable unit, and they're beautiful models. So I'm glad I got to play with them.
Yeah, so with your list and on this mission, because this first mission was the flank attack, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
your allies, so back in the day before the match played, you had to put so many in, but Ben, you've made it so your allies went in the full flank attack. How did that go with your kind of the Battle Pilgrims and the Grail Knights? Did you plan your list, your allies, with these missions involved, or did you just go, oh, they look cool?
So a big part of my allies was I needed a wizard. I wasn't going to take a level 1 wizard in my main force for null. I didn't think it was that useful. And the only way of getting a wizard in your allies that is at least a level 3 or 4 is either Crowmore or Lady Elise card. Can't have Crowmore, so Elise was a pretty good choice. I also have Bretonian models, so I was excited to do it. I did plan for flank attack. The idea being, and it worked out, was that I would deploy at least 2 of my war machines on the edge of my main deployment that I would then put battle pilgrims next to cover them for the game, which worked out. They did exactly that. While the Grail Knights were then free to run up the side of the board and do like a flank attack. It worked out. I also planned it around the fact that So I had Hans von Lohenhack for an extra +1, which, you normally don't get +1 with flank attack, but I do because of him. And that meant I didn't want to kneel. So I brought Grail Knights, so as they'd always have the ward, even though I wasn't
Oh,
going
that's
to
so
kneel.
smart. Yeah.
Importantly, Hans von Lohenhack did not do his job this event. I did not. I only went first in the second game because I was the attacker, so I got to go first no matter what. So this is my second event with Hans where he has not done the only thing that he does.
I was about to say, I'm pretty sure the last time you trialed him out, he did nothing. So
I'm
good to
pretty
see
sure
he's on form.
I explicitly said last time, "Oh, I'm just not going to play with him again." I didn't go first once, and I tried him again. Yeah, same thing. Oh well. He, he was an Empire general, so he did okay. It wasn't, he made me leadership 10, which was important, but he didn't do the +1. So.
No, so good first game versus Steve Seagard Garrison.
Yeah.
How did this leave you off in the who you got to play next?
So 15-5, I dodged the two big winners. I think I was third in the rankings or fourth in the rankings. I think so. One of the other Empire players, Morgan, got the same score as me. He also got a 15. So I ended up playing a mirror in the second round against Morgan, who had Renegade Crowns as his allies. So
Yeah.
he was like double cannon, steam tank, and then a Doom Seeker and a bunch of cav in the allies. So he rolled the defender. He won the roll off for choosing sides, so he became the defender, which meant his allies didn't start on the board. They came in on turn 2. I think.
Ooh, that's big.
So I got to go first, and I had a numbers advantage the first turn. And going first was important for my army because I knew I was going to get a whole turn of bombarding him first, which meant at the end of turn 1, his Griffin banner bearing halberdier block, or it might have been a swordsman block, like veteran swordsman. Basically, it didn't exist anymore. He had like 2 guys, and they were just the characters left or something.
You horrible man.
So I got that in there. I think I managed to line up a couple of charges on the steam where the steam tank could come forward to on the next turn. So my battle pilgrims were gonna get to sit on the steam tank and lock it for the rest of the game. If he moved it forwards, which it's a bad choice for the steam tank, right? It can't actually turn around anymore. So I think I penned him in a bit, and while his allies did come in and sweep my backfield, like he killed all of my war machines by the end of the game. Between finishing off his main force and holding the hill, I ended up like 14-6, I think, in the end. Holding the hill for the extra like 500 points made a big difference.
Yeah, sounds very good. Ben, a question for you about this mission. Why did you allow whoever won the role of just to be the defender? Why didn't you let them have a choice? I'm curious.
If you won, you had to be the attacker, and that, in my mind, stopped you from skewing into defense or super aggro. So you had no choice. It was down to your dice. So it was a case of you win, you're the attacker. You can't plan for that. And it just made because the mission was asymmetrical, it just felt a bit fairer in my mind.
Oh, fair. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Because I think in some missions, because I know I was meant to play Corn, I really needed to be the attacker because I needed everything on the board. So it was quite a big thing. But as I say, it's that kind of you plan to the mission pack, don't you, in the comp. So definitely a good mission there. And as I say, I quite like asymmetric or slightly different things. So good work there, Ben.
Yeah, it was a fun mission. It felt really meaningful which side you started on, and you had to, you didn't know before the games. You had to come up with, multiple game plans as well as not knowing who you were against. It was good. I enjoyed the mission a lot. And then the third mission, I flew too close to the sun with my War Machine State Troop spam, and I ended up playing Joe's Cathay, which worried me a lot. I thought I was gonna get absolutely bad. When I lost the roll off to go first, really didn't feel good. I thought I was probably gonna get tabled after about the first turn. Joe's first like Alpha Strike, the bombs from the Sky Lantern landed on my big unit of state troops, immediately killed half of my block, which was very scary. He fired some stuff. It did a little bit of damage to me, but the biggest issue was that he'd half healthed my main unit. I think all of my war machines survived the pot shots. I'm like, he took a wound here and a wound there, but none of them died. My first turn shooting back, the 2 handgunner units were able to kill the balloon in front of my halberdiers. So they were able to like move up a bit and around to go towards some Jade Warriors. My Grail Knights charged a Jade Sentinel with the Lady's Gift off and the Lady's Wrath or whatever, the Strength at AP1. So the Grail Knights are like Strength 8, AP3 with their lances. I thought, this is it. I'm gonna blow through a Jade Sentinel here. Scuffed my rolls, did one wound to him, which meant that they on turn 2 also got flanked by like 30 Jade Warriors. Start Joe's turn 2. I was sweating bullets. I thought I had absolutely cooked this game. I was done for. But in the next combat, the Jade Warriors did beat the Grail Knights in combat. But the Grail Knights with the Lady's Wrath spell and their hand weapons were actually able to kill the Jade Sentinel with their hand weapons. And so when I got pushed off to flee, I actually fled further than they went, so I didn't get caught, which meant I rallied, and so my wizard stayed alive, and it was able to skirt around the back through the rest of the game with 2 Grail Knights. And over the next couple turns, while the Shugs cleaned up my war machines, my Griffin Banner unit were drilled, charged some Jade Warriors, beat them in combat, ran through into like a cannon and a Fire Rain rocket battery, killed off some peasants. The surviving Grail Knights skirted the Jade Warriors and killed some crane gunners by the end of the game. But importantly, I spent about 9 turns in the center of the board with my halberdier block, who were like reforming and trying to dodge stuff and catching Jade Warriors. And
spinning on the spot, lovely.
And this game gave you 100 points per player turn for staying in the middle of the board. So I actually think on points, Joe and I pretty much drew. I think maybe I won by about 50 points. But the objectives gave me a huge swing to I think a 14-6. It was a really good and really close game, and I only won on objective points. We would have drawn otherwise. And I have to thank Joe because I needed to leave early, so I had to rush through that game, and he played very quickly for me, which was kind of him.
Nice. So overall, a really kind of good tournament there. Obviously, you've got into a bit of more of a fluffy fun event, which I think is that what we're trying to do, make it a bit more not this sweat fest that we'll see in the top armies. But as I say, my question to you, Owen, with this, you played 3 games like this, because I did a couple practice games and whatnot. How did you feel with the amount of models you had? But obviously, because your main army was only 1800s, you only had those like 1 per 1,000. So like your opponents could only take 1 Sugar Lord. We couldn't take double Dragon. How did you find actually like playing in it? Did it look and feel what some people would call like, more Warhammery?
I think it definitely did to a degree. There was a lot more blocks. I played with 3 infantry blocks. I think every game I played at least against 1 other infantry block. I think it felt like it evened the playing field for me a bit. To some degree, I took a softer list by playing with lots and lots of stage. I brought 40 handgunners. When was the last time you saw 40 handgunners in the old world?
Never.
I didn't feel as outgunned as I would have been if it was a true 2,000 points. I played against a dragon and I played against 2 Shugs in my final game. But if I had been playing against double dragon, I wouldn't have been able to stop them. I could barely stop 1 dragon with some luck. It definitely felt like, at least for Empire, it evened up the playing field a bit. I enjoyed it a lot. I think it's good. I think that some armies are maybe too restricted on the per 1,000 points. I'm sure Skaven would have struggled more at this event because they're really hampered by per 1,000. But
Yeah.
other armies have barely any restrictions, right? Tomb Kings, do they even care about playing less than 2,000 points?
So yeah, this was my I was going to say about this because I thought about some lists beforehand. Like I was speaking to you, Ben, about like, what should I bring, this kind of thing. Because I was like, corn time. But I found out there's a Tomb Kings list, which you could have. I believe it was 36 or 39 T6 wounds, of just flying monsters and like that. It's just I don't know what could actually beat that because other people are limited and I actually wasn't.
That's nothing to do with this event, though. That's more that some armies are affected much more by the restrictions per 1,000, and I also think the legacy factions for some reason are much more penalized. I don't know if they were written before, like they passed back over the limitations maybe, but I definitely think for the most part it felt like the games were a bit more even. You couldn't bring lots of the oppressive units because those are the ones that are normally limited for 1,000.
Yeah,
It
I think
also meant kept the allies in check as well, right? Because the allies didn't have any of the 1 per 1,000, so the allies
No,
were
that
mostly like a couple of smaller units with a character, and that meant that the allies felt a lot more flavorful as well.
I think if I was to add to different comp style, I'd actually put in some restrictions. Like you said, Bryn, you found like a kind of a loophole, and I didn't realize how unrestricted the Tomb King's army composition was. And I think I'd actually, like Owen mentioned, reduce them on some of the less, like Skaven, for example, some of the lesser potent units, just to give a bit more of a opportunity for people to lean into it if they want to. But a different way of comping, just restricting that, but still allowing it. And now with the FAQ dropped, you can take your foot off the neck of Ushabti and Pegasus and
my
stuff.
boys, my poor boys.
Yeah, we'll all see them now behaving as we want them to on the table, and it kind of gives the real skirmish units and not so much the busted skirmish units a fighting chance of doing their job.
Shall we
Yeah,
go
really.
over some scores on the doors for the event?
Yeah, so who did actually take this down then? And you guys mentioned about Welsh comp being this like secret test run. So how did that actually affect it then?
So I run this event with nobody knowing that the Welsh comp was going to be kind of run alongside it. So we've created, me and Owen and yourself have created a Welsh comp with the help of a lot of the Welsh players for some input to make sure we're not leaning into our bias too much. So it's been well policed. The event ran as normal. It was completely fair and square based on what was available to them. And then I run the pairings and the final ending of the tournament using the Welsh comp, and I give out a small prize to it. But Owen wasn't there, so I give it to the next person. But it gives an idea of what can happen. So if Owen brings up the actual scores for the
This
event.
is the scores as it lay at the end of the event without any comp involved. The bonus points are like the painting points, and Dan's got a game included because he was a sub, so he's got extra points of his previous game.
Yeah, and it's as you'd expect, right? That Rob had a hard list with the Cathay force, so we'd expect him near the top. It was beautiful army. He played it well, deserved it. Ollie played the trickiest list going, and he found a filthy combo with his Beastmen, and he lives and breathes Beastmen, which is why he was my pick to win. And lo and behold, Owen lent into the comp, and so you can see that he comes second, and Mark was a close fourth. So I think Yanni would have been up there as well, but he unfortunately had unpainted models in both sides of his force, so he suffered on the painting points. But it just shows that he would have jumped up to 53.
He is sixth though, as it is. With painting points, he would have come joint second or possibly beaten me on kill points. For some reason, the table is showing him lower down. Yanni was sixth between Morgan and Joe.
Yeah, and so Yanni would have jumped up and podiumed, but the tournament pack said painted points. He didn't paint. I know that he had some pressure on outside of the tournament, but he told me he had a good time, and so that was the overall vibe. When we run the Welsh comp alongside of it, what it does is it encourages you to bring units that aren't as common. It doesn't penalize you too heavily, but if you bring the meta choices, the things that everyone sees all the time, you will see it. You will suffer penalty points to your final score, and it ends up having this ends up trying to balance the weaker units that people don't want to bring because they're not very powerful or they're just not as good as other units, and reducing the volumes of the really powerful stuff. So your initial scores aren't as penalized, and then if you lean into something too heavily like gyrocopters, you'll see a bigger penalty. Owen, show up the next table.
So this is the table including comp scores. So you can see the WC column is your comp added. So I had +9. I had lent into the bombard comp and bought mortars and hellstorms, things that you don't usually see, and so I ended up with a really high comp score. Ollie and Mark and Yanni, because they had legacy armies, their comp was less affected as we hadn't written the legacies at the time.
We're waiting on the Renegades, aren't we, to see how they will be, because we want to be that kind of inclusive. But yeah, so we don't know. They're not all out yet, are they? We're still waiting on.
We're waiting for
one
the
of
vampires one before we publish it, and also the others now need like a second pass now that the FAQ is out. For instance, at the moment you get bonuses for taking giants. That'll probably go away. They're quite good now.
Yeah, definitely.
You can see that Morgan had a small minus for taking a couple of strong picks, but mostly not too bad. Rob took a dead hard list, and so drops quite a bit from third down to sixth. Morgan stays in the same place. Mikkel goes up slightly. Steve goes up quite a few points actually from 10th. Joe again with a harsh Cathalis drops down from 7th. And the others sort of like, it feels a bit like they even themselves out, and you can see there's a wide spread of scores there as well, which is expected. People didn't know they were gonna get some sort of a comp score right, but it's interesting to see that the average, I think, for the event was still around 3 positive, so people were bringing more fun lists on average, right?
Yeah, and I think the thing to take away is that the dead hard lists are still doing well, right? There's Rob's still in the mixer. The Cathay list can do it, and I think the tournament points used, sorry, not tournament points, the 20-0 system that was in place that Pash designed actually was really forgiving to being battered. I don't think in the first mission you could be 20-0 because it didn't give you enough scoring. And so the second mission with the 500-point swing, and then the last mission was like an actual point fest, and that was with intent. Maybe a bit too heavy, but the idea was to give everyone a fair chance. And like I said, if you're aware of the comp, you can lean into it a bit more. You can reduce your picks. You can try and squeak out an extra point here or there, or go balanced and play a good game, or lean into it and bring something silly, and hopefully podium, maybe even win, as Owen has here. I think if the bombard rule we put in hindsight, maybe we could have took the more points out. But again, you had +9, so even with a plus swap,
I would have had 7. I think I still would have won with it. Something interesting for people at home who are on this list. If you think back to your games, one of the things that isn't included in this, which is in Welsh comp, is that if you have a low or if you have a higher comp score than your opponent, so you have a more positive list, you also get +1 to go first on the roll off. So if you cast your mind back to any of your games that you may have had a more positive list, it would potentially have having an advantage to going first have made a difference this tournament as well. It means that the people who take the harsher lists, they have a much stronger list than you, but they have to then pilot it well still to win.
Because that's the thing, is you talk about that. So if you look at Rob, obviously he was -7 with the painting points. If he 20-0'd everyone, he would have got 70 up to the painted, and he would have gone down to 63. So he would have still won it, but he needed to win he needed to get the 320s, and that's the whole point of those hard lists. Should be able to do that kind of more easily, but then it punishes you, and if you don't, you can start slipping. So it's that kind of balance of, do I try and take a list that gets me a couple positive points, but I know I can win 15 5s with it, kind of thing.
Something to take away from that, though, is that the comp that was in place and the army design actually limited the negative points you could accrue. So in Welsh comp, you can go into the minuses right down to wherever you end up, but you're capped at a positive. So it's a cap of 10 for a 1-dayer and a cap of 15 for a 2-dayer. But Rob could have brought 3 cannons, 3 shugs, right? He could have really gone into the filthiest Cathay that possibly ever existed, And then he'd see a massive reduction in his comp score, which if you did get the 20 O's, he might have had a minus 15.
True.
Right. So you then lose out to someone that just pips you at the end with a I don't know, 46, right? If you're at minus 15. With no pain in points. So it's that balance then that you then start building into your list building. It gives you an element of thought, but we'll give more information on Welsh Comp when we start reviewing it. It just needs another pass, so it'll be coming in the future for those that are interested.
Yeah, post FAQ, we need just to say some things need to have a little look at, kind of thing. But yeah,
Which is positive, right? If the FAQ has affected the comp that we built, that means the FAQ was effective. I think it was actually a really good FAQ. There's some obvious errors or obvious misjudgments in wording, but overall, I think the FAQ's sorted a lot of the problems. You can take your foot off some of the oppressive factions there.
Yeah, overall it feels really good. There's a couple of maybe poorly written FAQ lines where what FAQ doesn't have a couple of those. So while those get ironed out, generally speaking, it has made the game more interesting to build around. There's more options. Yeah, a lot of monsters, non-ridden monsters that were seen as unusable now, people are really excited about. My poor Nolan got taken out behind the shed and shot, but it's okay. I'll just play something else. It's fine, G-dubs.
don't worry, you should have the my 20 of them are just now in the bin.
There's
So thanks.
I do wonder if someone at GW looked at Teams Wales' armies and started crossing them out. But so
That's politics because we don't talk politics.
but the FAQ is really positive. You should be excited about it. It's going to change the armies that you see on the table. It's going to change the ways you're able to play the game, and the comp will adjust to do it as well, right? There's some things that you no longer need negatives for. There's some things that you no longer need positives for. So
yeah.
we'll rebalance it around. Again, it's not just the most powerful things. It's also the things that you don't get to see very often. We want to encourage people to bring more diverse armies. And so before, you never saw a giant, so you got positives for bringing them. I expect you'll see lots of them now, so there's no reason to give people more incentive to bring them. And speaking of Welsh Comp, Ben's got some news on a new event.
Yeah, so we're going to run Welsh Comp at my next event. So I put it in for the 3rd of October. That went through this week. So building the pack out this week and then into next week. When the Welsh Comp is reviewed and run, we can issue that out alongside the pack as a link. The theme of it is Excalibur. So it's a mandatory most expensive weapon for your general. And then to balance that out a little bit, there'll be a set amount of additional points to spend on additional magic items. Some units will be taken over the cap. Some will maybe brought down a little bit, so they can't go up to the normal cap. There'll be a limitation on the per 1000s because I think that really helped bring some balance to the lists. So that'll come into effect with a 1999 plus 201 list building number. We're going to introduce some secret missions, add some spice to your games, give you something to think about, and then banners scoring. So hopefully to encourage banners in your list building. So a couple of interesting spins on the usual. Again, like I'm not trying to build tournaments for hard as nails lists or meta chase. I want people to come, have fun, bring what they want to bring, enjoy the day. Which does lead me on to I chucked out a survey, had some responses, just to sort of gauge the event, and it was quite a complicated event pack. So I kind of wanted to understand where everyone felt it landed. It got a 4.75 and how satisfied they were in the event out of 5. So very happy with that. Everyone that responded to the survey had been to an event. The tournament pack got a rating of 2.5 out of 3. So it was a 3-star one. So the pack was complicated, but everyone managed it. And I'd imagine that was the case. If you can follow the old world rules, you could probably follow the pack I put out. What did they like most about the event? Allies, different list building options, different format to the usual. competitive events and avoiding 20 nils was specifically shouted out. So the theme really landed. It's kind of pushed me into the direction I've gone with this tournament pack. Missions, what missions they like the most, and there was everyone that replied like each mission for different things. There was some feedback on the last missions. Felt like a win more, which is absolutely understandable, but they like that they were varied and a bit different. Were there any elements of the event that you didn't enjoy? And I think some people who might come up against some harder lists didn't quite enjoy that, but I've got a cunning plan to sort that out in the next pack, which we can go over in that. Then I offered them two options for giants and magical weapons for the next event, and the magical weapons edged it out. So even this was before the FAQ, I imagine giants might have got a bit of a boost there, but magic weapons are a go, maybe giants in the future. And then would they like to see an allies event in the future? And everyone had responded with a yes. So I'll very likely bring back an allies event at least once a year. I might expand it out for a 2-dayer if there's an appetite for it. I've had the permission slips from my wife. So
Good. So I think a big thing is it's that, as I say, when I was playing it's a different thing. It's not the bog standard. Here's 2,000 points. Here's just the the usual comp on certain things. You did something slightly different. Even the allies weren't exactly what like normal allies are meant to be. So you gave more points, which I thought was really cool. My thing I really enjoyed when making this building and playing it is the amount of stuff you had. But you once again, like I was looking to play with corn. Like I had a dragon, cool. But I had one that was only a double save. That's T5. But I had so many other stuff on the board. Like I felt like I was playing like a real game of Warhammer, and it was so fun on that kind of aspect. So I think you're kind of not doing the norm of his 2K. Let's just play how it is. The added spice to it, I think you've done really well there, Ben. So honestly, from my aspect, 10 out of 10. I'm looking forward to this Excalibur one coming up.
yeah, and the event, like Owen's run us through his games, but some of these games were wild. Like the last game, so much. Like at one point, I think it was like round 2 in every table, something crazy happened, and I couldn't actually quite believe what was going on. I can't remember off the top of my head. One of the game there was like a huge amount of bounces. One game the Cetra chariot steamed through an entire high elf force and chased half the force backward and 20-0 the opponent. Yeah, it just got a bit crazy at one point, and that's what I want. I want people to come to the event and have these moments where the dice really do give you something to take away. I think a lot of players felt that way. I'll give Morgan a shout out. He did a lot of sitting around because he is a speed player by the turns out, and he can finish his games in 90 minutes or less, which is quite impressive. So I think Morgan needs to bring a board game with him next time or a phone game. But he took it in his stride. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed running it. Looking forward to October now.
Yeah, thank you again. I'm sure people on who came will be excited for the next one. Hopefully, we can encourage some more as well.
With the next event, that is just a couple of questions for me. Renegades, yes or no?
Yes, absolutely yes. I think I've said it in the last video. I think Val and the work he's put in to make those armies play how they're meant to play and give the people that own them a chance to use them is I want people to bring their toys and have fun, right? And those rules brought them up. Like you've seen in the finale there. Granted, they weren't comped, but top players were playing those armies. They might have been a bit too much, but they're still fine tuning it. I want to encourage people to use. I want to see lizards. Right? I want to see Skaven. I want to see all the fun stuff that you wouldn't see. And I want your opponent, who might always like only have his Bretts, come up against Skaven and not have a clue what's going on. I think that's fun for everyone.
Yeah, and then my next question, obviously, we've been talking about this Welsh comp. Is that going to be fully being it? Are we going to see first game matchups properly done by that, so people know in advance, like, oh, I need to make sure I'm doing this properly on this Welsh comp?
Yeah, I'm going to lean into the Welsh comp. I think that will be enough. There might be, like I said, there might be some restrictions I put on for the Peer 1000 to close some loopholes on your army composition if you don't have much, and maybe lift it where it's too too much if you've got a 2,200 point game. But yeah, the only comp that should really be in play then is Welsh comp. That'll be a true test of its balance.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't played a comp tournament before, some small advice is that most people tend to stay around 0. The average is often in the low positives because people want the opportunity to get the +1 against the harsh lists. It means that you won't see as many particularly like very strong harsh competitive lists. The ones that are there will potentially be very good against what they come up against, but they get knocked down at the end. So if they don't win big, they aren't going to win the event. So you'll tend to find that most people do sit around the average, 1 or 2 points. And so all I would say is try and bring the things that you want to and have fun and work out how your comp score would be based on playing anything that you feel like rather than just picking things because of the comp. Try and work out what you want to play first and see how it comes out.
Yeah, and if you've got models sat there that you haven't used and they get a plus score, and you think, oh, I'll give them a go, like absolutely, that's what we want you to bring. What you want, and we just want you to have your eyes open to that you will potentially be suffering a few negative points as a result. But I think everyone will be better off at the end of it for it because it'll balance itself once it's been put into a couple of tournament packs. Plan on using it going forward for pretty much everything that I run because I do think it will bring that element of balance, or at least bring the units that no one sees, which adds some enjoyment to everyone's day.
Yeah. So for people who haven't used it before, it affects your games in 3 ways. So you get positive points for taking less seen things. You get negative points for taking stronger or very common units. Generally speaking, stronger, more common units. That score is applied at the end, as you saw on the table. You'll get your. I got my +9 because I took what you might consider to be a soft list. It also affects your pairing, so you'll pair against someone with the same or as close to the same score as you. So if you take a softer list and a more fun list, you're going to have a more fun game one because your opponent is also going to have a high score. And then importantly, every game, whoever has the highest score between the two of you will get an additional +1 to go first. So there's things you can play around designing your army about trying to be high comp, low drops if you want a really big advantage to go first, or take loads and you won't be at a disadvantage to your opponent this time. It really gives you some extra things to think about while building your list, but nothing too major to the way that you design your force. It's just a few little bonuses.
And you don't even have to use it. Just build your list, apply the comp, and go. Right? It's a choice to lean into it. We will do some videos in the future going over it because I do think it'll help to have an example, and also to go through the comp for the good and the bad and the ugly. Right?
Definitely.
Yeah, sounds great. Can't wait. I'm actually very excited for this. I think it'd be good to kind of step forward. I know there's loads of different comps, but it's that we want to see the non-used units as much as possible. And as you say, let the boys play with what they want to play with, kind of thing. But you'll get a negative if it's ridiculous, kind of thing, like the Monkey King Wisdom Blade guy.
Yeah, and I want to build in my. I've taken a lot of inspiration from the 8th guys because they've been keeping their game alive for through comp because it's no longer supported, so they've had to build these systems. And I appreciate that GW are doing the FAQs and eventually making the changes, but I do want to build a culture of bring what you want, have fun. We haven't really talked about the winners or the prize support that happened, so I will touch on it. So the winners were obviously the winner was Ollie, Owen, and then Rob. I only gave a prize for first because I wanted to put the prizes elsewhere. So we then had a prize for painted. So that was a vote on the best painted model, so anyone could win that. And then the third prize for the was a raffle. Essentially, I put everyone's name into a randomizer, a wheel spinner. Got the lowest place player to press the button, and and funnily enough, the lowest place player won the raffle because it's landed on his name. So anyone could win something, which meant you don't have to come, or you won't have to come to in the top 3 to win a prize. You can just come and win a raffle. Right, everyone's got a chance to win that, or come because you've got a really nice painted model, really nice painted army, and win a prize that way. So I want to encourage people to play and not just reward people that want to win it. I want people to come and have fun and then have various awards for it. So the next pack's got a couple of different prizes we'll go over when we review it, and I'm hoping that that'll give everyone a fighting chance at something, and encourage a different style, a different attitude towards the tournament.
Definitely. That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited. It's the week after WTC, so it'll also be a lovely palate cleanser for those of us going there. We can have some more fun with our Warhammer rather than taking it too seriously. I'm looking forward to it.
I might put the list submission a little bit earlier then, so you guys aren't doing that on the Friday night in the pub whilst you're all traveling away.
Yeah,
that's
probably a good idea.
Maybe a couple of days. I could do it on a Wednesday night or something, and then I could take a breather on a Friday night when everyone starts asking me questions.
All right, and I think that brings us to a close on the Rally the Allies series. But it's been fun. Thank you everyone for joining us over at Cardiff Fantasy Hammer, and you'll see some updates soon, either about Ben's October event or Welsh Comp in general.
Yep, thanks for listening. Do the usual likes and whatnot. Share the page with people in the area if they're not aware of it, just so that they can see the stuff that's going on. We'll have other people's events on here. So when Ollie runs the next Welsh Open, we'll try and get his up here so we can talk through things. And if Owen runs another event, we can get that on here as well. We can just give people the heads up, get some interest, and encourage people to come along.
Yeah, and on that, with the whole like and share, we do have an Instagram account as well. So we're going to try and post more photos of that as things go. So obviously we'll put that in the description as well.
Well, thanks everyone. Catch you in the next video.
Cheers.
Ta-ra.